Hi everybody. I've been pretty interested in the subject of learning, and there has been a number of programs which I would have gone through in 25 years of my career in human resource function. And of late, I have realized that there is something which is very fundamental and very basic, which somehow gets ignored or less valued in the process of learning. There are multiple programs ranging from subjects like communication to strategy to leadership to transformational leadership, etc. etc. But there is one very fundamental unit or very fundamental subject through which the knowledge gets built, or through which the knowledge gets refined, or even the transfer of knowledge, if it at all happens or wherever it happens because of only one very basic fundamental stuff, what is called as conversation. Okay, I think this life is all about conversation. All relationships are about conversation. Whatever we've learned in a life is because of the conversation. And I've been trying to read and understand the subject of conversation. That's where I came across a concept called dialogue, okay, or the art of thinking together, or the art of conversing together. Dialogue word generally is understood as the opposite of what is called as a monologue, where one person talks. Dialogue is where more than one person talks. But then if you go into the origin of the word and try to split the word and understand it, you'll realize that look, dia means through and logos means words. Means when there is a flow of meaning through words, that's where it is supposed to be the dialogue happening. There are words like communication, there are words like discussion, there are words like debate, argument, and I think none of these words come even close to word dialogue, which gives me a sort of a sense. And if I try to draw a picture of dialogue, it looks like a flow of a river touching the two banks. And if the river does not touch the bank is not called a bank, okay? So it's something like that. When the flow of meaning through words, and when it is touching two people, when the two people are able to connect and create something which is more than the two, that's where the dialogue is happening, okay? Differences in function, differences in verticals, differences in different departments. And why to go so far? The differences in the team, or the differences in relationship. All this happens because something which is so simple, and we tend to ignore it. We tend not to think about it. We think that it has come natural to us to converse is something which is very natural. But then there is a need to reflect on this. There is a need to revisit and observe how exactly we converse, okay? And when I read the subject into a bit more detail, there's an interesting behavior which comes up, and which really connects with the dialogue concept very powerfully. Is that, why the conversations don't happen, and if conversations fail, or if conversations are not effective, what is that which is behind it? There are 4 behaviors which I want to talk to you all. The number one behavior which is required for a dialogue is that one should be ready to listen. And honestly speaking, we would have always prepared ourselves to speak. There is one presentation, there is another presentation, there is this review, there is this meeting, and we would have put a lot of our energy and time in preparing ourselves to speak. How many times have we prepared ourselves to listen? God has given 2 ears. The nature has provided us a great ability to listen, and one mouth to speak. I think the hidden message of the nature is that look, you got to listen comparatively more than to speak. But we all have always prepared ourselves to speak. Now the point is why we do not listen, or why we do not prepare ourselves to listen. It happens basically because somewhere we are not respecting the person with whom we are getting into a conversation, okay? And respecting doesn't mean that, look, I'm not talking about being getting involved into the rituals of it, okay? What I mean by respect is giving space. When you give space to your junior, when you give space to your seniors, when you give space to your peer, that's what means that you respect. And try to recall or try to relate that, look, all those people whom you have respected or whom you respect, you would always be very attentive to listen to them. And now the question comes that, look, if a person is not listening, or if we are not listening, or if we are not respecting, why does it happen? Is there a reason behind it? Yes. The third behavior which is required to get into a dialogue in an effective way is your ability to suspend. Look, we all have so many thoughts meandering all the time in our mind. I was reading it somewhere, and an interesting point which I came across was the difference between the word think and thought. Thought is a past participle of word think. And it says that, look, how many times are you ready to surprise yourself in a day? If end of the day you have a question to yourself that, look, how could you do it? Aren't you surprised about what you did? If that is happening, that means you're thinking. While otherwise, it's all thought, and thought is a reactive memory. It is past, and the past is dead. And we carry a past, and on the basis of the past, we try to handle present, and on the basis of the past, we try to create a future. Now, these thoughts impact our ability to listen. These thoughts impact the way we connect and respect people. If we can understand these thoughts, I'm not saying that, look, please stop these thoughts, because that's difficult, because we all have our experiences of the past. But if you can understand and if you can learn to suspend those thoughts, I think that could make the conversation or the dialogue effective. And the fourth behavior which is required to have a good dialogue is your ability to voice. A very interesting incident, I was reading it somewhere, that there was a guy who was a management consultant, and he used to give sessions on different subjects of management, okay? But this guy also used to play guitar in between, those breaks. So his guitar was more remembered by people than the content on the subject which he used to deliver. So one day, one of the guy asked him that, look, you were playing music, what music is that? So this person responded and said, look, this is a music called Moonlight. He said, no, I'm not talking about this one, I'm talking about the one which you played in the morning. So he said, the one I played in the morning is my own creation. So he said, then why don't you play that song? The message is that, look, if you do not sing your music, if you do not play your own music, who will play your music? So you don't need to play Moonlight. Why don't you play your own creation, your own music? The point which I'm trying to make is that, look, I have a music, I have a view, and I have a view which is a heartfelt view. Do I voice it? And do I voice it with suspended thoughts? Do I voice it with reference to the current flow? If I'm able to do it, I think these four behaviors of listening, respecting, suspending, and voicing could make any relationship full of knowledge, and it will create a huge ability to think collectively and create a desirable world in a collective way. Thank you very much.